rubber duck, and I'm about to put the hammer down.
'Cause we are little convoy, rocking through the night. Yeah, we got little convoy, it's your beautiful sight. Come on, join our
Well, it's an issue that we've been talking about an awful lot, especially as the governor wants a carbon tax on all of us to clean up the air, he says. John Kerry was in Olympia yesterday pushing for the same thing. Meanwhile, our truckers in the region, they have mandates from a different governmental entity. The Port of Seattle told them that they need to get cleaner, and a guy who owns a local trucking company is Rob Graham. He joins us here on Cairo Radio in studio. Hey, Rob, thanks for coming in. I appreciate it.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Okay, so the Port of Seattle told you guys what?
That if we did not have engine model 2007, engine model year 2007 or newer, by January 1st, 2018, we would not be allowed in the port.
Okay. All right. So that deadline's come and gone. You guys got under compliance.
That's correct. We're 100% compliance, as are 52% of the other truckers that serve the port.
Okay. So that means nearly half, 48%, did not follow those rules, and the port is now giving them an extension?
Yes. It's the most arbitrary and capricious extension I've ever seen in my entire life. It's they have to show some kind of a note that says they're going to buy a truck, or the port's not even sure. They're reaching out right now to figure out what that should be, what should be the criteria. But right now it's apparently showing some kind of proof or
that they're planning
that you
to do
intend to buy a truck, and that'll get you through to a full year extension.
Okay. And so what's the problem with that from your perspective? Because the argument that I've been hearing is that the 48% who are not in compliance, who didn't follow these new rules, they simply couldn't afford to do so. The Seattle Times story said these are, a lot of them are immigrants, and they've come here, they're trying to support their families, and they just couldn't afford to get in compliance like you did. What do you say to that?
I say that we work with all of these truckers all day, every day. I know a lot of them. Part of the 52% are these immigrants, are these truckers that they're calling poor truckers. So if they can comply, in most cases earning the same thing as the ones that didn't comply, how is it that some can manage to scrape enough together to comply while others can't? I would argue that it's more the issue of where you put your dollars. Do you want to reinvest in your company, or do you want to take that money out and do something else with it? So I think that's truly the difference.
So you all have similar revenues? Is that what you're telling me?
I'm saying in some cases. In some cases, there are shippers who have lots of us, lots of different companies in the mix who they pay the same thing. A good example is the Burlington Northern Railroad. Okay, so they are one of the biggest shippers in town. They do what's called a bridge, and they move the containers from their facility, their rail facility, to the port. All of us that supply trucks for that are paid the exact same thing. So, and many of these companies don't do anything else. That's what they do.
Right.
Half of them are in compliance. Half of them are not. What is the difference? Why aren't the 48% in compliance if they're making the same thing?
And your complaint about this is it puts you at a competitive disadvantage because you got in compliance?
Yes.
How does it hurt you?
So these trucks are not good. They are not fuel efficient. They have expensive emission stuff.
The ones that you bought, the new ones you have are not good?
Everything that will put you in compliance is not good. These trucks are not good.
So the port is making you guys buy an inferior truck?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So you are... You meet the emission standards or the fuel standards efficiency with an inferior truck, and you're trying to compete against guys who have less efficient trucks but from a global standpoint, from an emission standpoint, but they're just better at the hauling? Is that what you're telling me?
What I'm saying is we now compete with companies that didn't have to make the investment. They don't get the lesser fuel economy. They don't have to add DEF, which is an additive just like diesel that you have to put in these trucks that are part of what it's part of the emissions. It's part of what supposedly cleans the air. So they don't have to add that. They don't have to drive around and find it. And they don't have the maintenance on these newer trucks is horrifically worse than an older truck.
So here's a government mandate that's cost you. How much did it cost you to flip your fleet to these newer trucks?
I don't have that information in front of me. Millions.
It cost you millions.
I've spent.
How many trucks do you have?
We have 4 different companies, and so the company that I'm representing here, Graham Trucking, we run in the neighborhood of 100 trucks.
Okay. All right. So the government, being the Port of Seattle, they make you buy inferior trucks. They are costing you a fortune. They not just in the upfront costs, but in the maintenance. They don't work as well. But you thought, this is the new rule, I got to do it. And you're telling me your competitors just didn't follow the rule and are now being given an exemption for that.
That's absolutely correct. We've been in close contact with the port for the past 3 years.
What's the port say about that? How do they justify that?
They don't. They ignore us. They've done nothing but turn their backs on us. We had communication. I begged the port 3 years ago. I begged the port to let us know if there was any chance whatsoever that they would delay this mandate. And in May of last year was my last email from the gal that's now left the port that said they had no intention of delaying this. 7 months before implementation, and they said there was no reasonable likelihood that they would delay this mandate.
Okay, and now they have, and again, they're doing it because they said these poor immigrant truckers, they can't afford it. And there was a quote in the Seattle Times, a guy who said that he bought a $40,000 truck years ago that he can't afford to upgrade, and he said it's just going to sit on the street and rust out if I can't use this truck.
Yeah, that's awesome, except for one thing. What about the immigrants, the poor immigrants that did comply? What are we doing with them? What are we doing with the 52% of the immigrants who did comply with their mandate? What are we doing for them?
Yeah, well, rule's a rule. I mean, if there's a rule for you and you followed it, I don't know why they should let other people skate around that same rule.
Exactly.
And so are you guys filing a lawsuit? Are you doing a walkout? What all are you doing here?
Yeah, so far we are talking with much of the 52% that did comply. And originally there was 10 of us filing the lawsuit, and now there are more coming on every day. And so far we have simply asked them not to get rid of any emails, records, voicemails, anything that could be used in court. We're doing I believe they did, I've been out for surgery, but I believe they did a public record request yesterday. And
so what do you want? You want the 48% who aren't in compliance, you want them shut down, locked out until they get a truck that follows the rule?
I just want them to comply.
Well, I understand.
That's all.
But I mean, how are you going to get that? If the port doesn't say we're not going to let you operate, they're not going to get in compliance.
If the port chooses to stay on the course they're on and give the non-compliant companies the additional year, then rather than spend the millions of dollars that they're spending now again for these non-compliant truckers, I want them to give that money to the compliant truckers to offset the additional cost we have.
Got it. All right. Rob Graham, Graham Trucking. Rob, I appreciate you coming in, shine some light on this. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Dori. I appreciate it.
All right. We got lots more straight ahead here on the Dori Monson Show.
Come on, join our